Hello everyone, welcome to the Penthouse. I am Bo, also known as Q is Too Short, and today I am going to show the best way to play Hermes in Firestorm. So I ended up getting top 16 with Hermes at this previous premiere, bubbling out of top 8, which is really unfortunate, but this deck is really fun. It plays on a very different axis than other Celestial decks. Um, so I would go over it, tell you about some of the choices that I've made, as well as how to really play this deck. So the best way to play Hermes is as an engine or Antitan. So we're on a standard 3 Ardbud, 1 Ardbarum, and 1 Antitan for this list. Antitan is a very powerful card. It is a 3-drop that is relatively easy to get into because you can Ascension Climb into it. It does have some protection on it, but the main reason that you play this card is for it being a big sat line, meaning that your opponent has to invest a lot of resources if they want to beat over it, and the effect to discard to destroy cards on your opponent's field. So Hermes really enables Ardbud to really get into Antitan. And so Ardbud is the best start in the deck because it is the most consistent way into Antitan. There will be times where you do end up hard ascending into Ardbarum or hard ascending into Antitan, but most of the time it will be through Ascension Climbing with Ardbud. And in this list, Ardbud gets you everything that you need to get into Antitan, whether directly or indirectly, which is why there's a reason to play Hermes Antitan. In other versions of Antitan, you really are trading off this consistent way to get into Antitan for a bit more explosive power in the suppression version, where you're always looking to just get into Ardbud, straight into Antitan on the turn that you play the Ardbud, or have a stronger baseline power level with Earth Nexus. But in this version, Ardbud gets everything that you need to get into Antitan, which is why I would say it's a good viable version of Antitan. For the Hermes package, we're running 3 Spine and 2 Spinosec. So Spine is going to be the card that you get off of Ardbud because it searches for Hermes, which then gets you into another bug for Ardbarum. And that's basically it. Spine does have a secondary effect where you can disenchant a win from it to ascend into Spinosec. The theory behind that is that you go Spine search Hermes, Hermes dump the Spinosec, Spinosec effect when it's sent to Underworld, Nexus from Hermes to Spine, and then Spine disenchant to go into the second Spinosec. That is super spirit inefficient. It's really expensive. It's not a strong enough payoff for what you get out of that. And alongside that, you also cripple your Hermes. And having Hermes activations is really important in this list. So Spinosec is mostly here as a secondary win condition because it's incredibly difficult to remove with the 5/7 body. But it's also can be quite aggressive with its bounce effect. You will be hard ascending Spinosec most of the time. And we have ways to do that besides pray that Spine lives for a turn. I should also mention that Spinosec is the card that you will be getting off of Ardvarum most of the time. And I'll go over that more when we get into the main combo this deck and why that is really strong. And rounding out our champions of Hermes, to Carrion. Carrion is the card that you will be sending off of Hermes. Spinal it's okay in case you're in a pinch and you really need to remove something from your opponent's field, but Carry-On is going to be the way that you enable the Ascension climb for Ardbud and Ardvara, and allows you to have something to hard ascend over for Spinal Sect. This is technically a Garnet, because Hermes can't send it from hand, and so it's just a vanilla 3-1 in your hand. But it's still an insect, so Antitan can discard it if you do end up with one of them. The reason that we're playing two, slight insurance, because in case you draw one of them, you still have a second one. But also, you will be wanting to go through two if possible through a game. And then we need a few more bugs, so my bug of choice is Spectaris. Now, why Spectaris? You have really two options in this spot, the Spectaris or the Viscerus. And I chose Spectaris because it has a bit more utility by itself, and it's not reliant on other copies of itself. So Viscerus really is more like a push more card, where you want to be pushing tempo onto your opponent. Spectaris more so looks to answer pressure from your opponent. And that's why I felt like Spectaris was more suited for this deck. Because you don't really want to push forward until the turns that you are looking to get into Antitan and push with that, or get into Spinosect and push with that. It's also nice because I can freely discard Spectaris off of Antitan without having to worry that future copies of that card are going to be weaker. With Viscerus, I felt much more restricted in what I could discard off of Antitan. Next up, more starters. Triple Astrabbit. This card still very good. There's not enough other good starters for this list, so Rabbit does just fine. It is the second best starter because Spine is not an amazing starter unless you have other cards in hand. Hermes plus Spine is not a very strong combo. As I said before, it's very spirit inefficient. However, you want to have that Hermes in case you do end up finding Ardbud or Spinosect, because that combo is much more spirit efficient and much more powerful. So Rabbit, good card. Great start. And then rounding out our Celestials, good Champion 1. Wheel, good card. It outs a lot of things. It plays through a lot of different back row. And it does not hurt a lot in this deck. It hurts Spectaris and Ardvar. In which case, Will doesn't hurt them enough to justify not playing with it. Or, in the case of Ardvara, you're better off playing a bug to be able to ascend into it. This also synergizes very well with Rabbit, it synergizes fine enough with Spinem, and it synergizes very well with Spinosect. Making Spinosect a 7 attack, along with swapping everything else on the field, means that basically gets over anything. And then, onto our runes. 2 Hermes. We don't really need a third Hermes in this list. As I said before, we're really only going to need 2 activations of Hermes through a game, potentially a third. But having 2 is nice because you want to find your Hermes for your combos, and then in case you, like, Hermes just reads, you have 2 tap buffs in it, basically. But those tap buffs are when enchanted, and they are insects. So if you end up using both activations of Hermes on one of them, you can still have the second one to keep some of the different back row alive. Some of our back row is reliant on Hermes being on the field. So, but for those back row, we have 2 copies of Hermes, 3 Spine Nymph, and then 3 Ardbud that searches the Spine. So we have basically 8 ways to get to Hermes. Next up are the Invoke Runes, 3 Ambro, and the Earthquake. Ambrosia is very nice because this deck is expensive. It is a combo deck, so you will be chewing through a lot more spirits than you would with a 5-style deck. So having flexibility in what you heal, as well as not using up your normal cast to heal, Ambro is very good for that. Earthquake, good card. We can fit it into Spirit Math. It's annoying because we have to play 1 extra Earth because of this, but besides that, we can fit in. Unconditional removal is still really good in this form. And then that leaves us with counter runes. So we have 14 counter runes in total. Starting off first with 2 Trickery. Trickery is a very good card. It does have the stipulation that you have to have Hermes enchanted, which isn't too hard. Like I said, we have basically 8 ways to Hermes. But Trickery is very good for dodging interaction specifically. Making your opponent waste some sort of interaction on one of your Alestrals, and being able to still keep those spirits and keep a guy on field is pretty good. It's not the greatest because if you have an Antitan on field and they play like an Earthquake on it, your Trickery gets into Ardvarum, but you end up losing Earth Spear because of how special cast rulings work. Yeah, Trickery, very good. If you have Spinosec set up, this ends up becoming interaction during your opponent's turn. So you can end up dodging something and then in return sending something back to hand, which is very powerful. And interaction that most other decks can't put up. And then on the other side of the coin of Trickery, we have 2 Altar of Stars. This basically has the same casting condition in that you have to have Hermes on the field, basically. The Nexus is quite nice because you can end up enchanting an extra Wind to Spine it. That way you can ascend into Spinosec on the following turn. Or you can enchant 1 more to any bugs, whether that be Spine Imp, a Carrion that you have on field, or a Specterus. And then you can have Ardbud disenchant from it, and then Ardvarum destroy that same Celestial to get into Antitan. So the Altar is a bit better when you have only 1 cost Celestials on your field, whereas Trickery is stronger when you have your Ascensions out. And then we have a very standard counter rune lineup for the rest of it. 3 Gorgons, 3 Shield, 2 PTA, 2 Tsunami. Wouldn't really change these ratios too much. PTA does feel kind of bad, but having the extra removal is useful. Now moving on to the Spirit deck. So Spirit deck is a little bit wacky because of this is a combo deck. This is about as close as a Yu-Gi-Oh deck you can get in Alestrals right now. So the Spirit Math works out better when you look at the combo as a whole rather than each individual card. So I chose 8 Wind Spirits, 5 Earth Spirits, 3 Lunar, 2 Water, and 2 Thunder. Realistically, you could go lower on Winds. This 8 Winds is very, very comfy. 5 Earth is basically minimum for this deck. This gives, throughout the combo, you will go through 3 Earth, which gives you 2 Earth left for an Earthquake, as well as Spinosec in the future. 3 Lunar was quite a lot for me, because realistically you only need 1, and then every single Specterus you find usually after that becomes Antitan food. Waters should have been... I should have played more Waters in main, simply because of Spirit Math stuff with the side deck, and having extra Waters, it does make Galaxy a little bit better. 2 Thunder is perfectly fine. Yeah. And then onto our side deck. So for our side deck, we'll start off with our removal tools, a champion carryoff, 2 boom bats, resting on your laurels, 2 cryoblast, and frostbear to go alongside those. So carryoff is a good tool to have access to. It is not a particularly strong card, but against matchups where you really need removal, having Hermes as a potential earthquake, albeit an expensive earthquake, is a good option to have. Boobat, of course, best normal cast to do if you need to remove something, guaranteed, no matter how big they are. Resting on your laurels, feels bad enough to main. Feels bad enough in main, but it is an invoke that does say destroy an opponent's celestial, so it is a good tool to have access to if against certain options, especially those that look to build a tall board rather than a wide board. And then Cryoblast because it is very strong into fire specifically. And then we have a very fun tech. 2 Arachne Slayer for Stadium Wars. So why Arachne Slayer? Why not Void Forest or even Island? Because Arachne Slayer is technically an insectoid card. This gives it very funny and somewhat niche interactions with the entire line of Ardbud. So Ardbud can disenchant from a layer. So you don't have to waste a normal cast to get an extra spirit onto a Bug Celestial if you have a layer in here. Ardwarum can search it. It can't destroy it to ascend, but being able to search it and then just having this in wait so that your opponent can never play their stadiums defensively is quite good. It really limits their options because they have to really choose when they play the stadium. And how much value they're going to get out of that stadium for that basically one turn that they have it. And then Antitan can discard any extra copies of it layer that you have. So that's why we're on layer. We are on fire, so this effect is never live, which means that it's still good into a deck that like spiders, because we turn off their layer for our own layer that is also off, so they don't get to benefit from us having a layer. And then we're on to counter runes, 3rd PTA, double Pandora's Box, double Monsoon, along with the Water Spirit that should have been in there. So 3rd PTA is just good into certain matchups where something like Shield is a little weaker or Tsunami's weaker. Pandora's Box is just a silver bullet into bears. Being able to turn off their den is really strong, especially since most people only run the singular copy of den. And then Monsoon is also supposed to be good into fire. It kind of underperformed for me. It does have some funny shenanigans with re-enchanting to Spine Nymph or to a bug or to whale, but it, like I said, it didn't perform super well for me, and as I mentioned before, this Water Spirit really should have been it. Realistically, for the side deck, you should fit in Champ Spectaris, 2 copies of Champ Spectaris, and a Champion Cockatoodle, because that means that, especially when you're going second into a deck that plays Werepup, that means that if your opponent goes into like a Void and then they just opt to do Werepup, Ardbud then threatens the Ascension straight into Ardvarm, straight into Antitan, without having to find an Artemis or a Dense Fog or a Gorgon's Gates. And with Champion Cockatoodle, you can force that if you find Hermes. So you can force that combo so that the champ specs aren't completely dead in hand. If you find Hermes. And that's why there's 3 linear in this main deck. So that's the deck list. Guess I'll go over the primary combo for the deck. Goes through Hermes, goes through both Carrion, Spine Imp, and a Spine Set. So, basic combo is essentially Ardbud plus really any back row. Any back row that can guarantee that Ardbud lives your first turn. So Shield will do, Tsunami usually does it, PT is a little weaker, Alter and Trickery are kind of offline, but really Gorgons is like the card that stops basically anything from happening. So, but like I said, any back row usually does it, and sometimes your opponent just does not open an aggressive guy for it, so that's also a possibility. So, grab spirits as well. So, you'll cast Ardbud, and then you'll go Ardbud effect to search for a bug. Your bug of choice, Spine. You'll set your any interaction that you have, and then let's say my opponent threatens the Ardbud, I will fire it. Spirits are usually kind of flexible depending on what you have in hand, but usually I will get rid of the 3rd Lunar and the Scepter for it. I'm really I don't stick with the Zapdos for too long if I don't have an Astraptor. So for your next turn, you play out Spine Imp, and then your Spine Imp will grab your Hermes. You'll then go Ardbud effect, disenchanting from the Spine Imp. You'll send it into Ardvarum. And then your Ardvarum effect will trigger, allowing you to search for a bug. We will grab Spinosect up. We will then play the Hermes for all 4 spirits. And then use the Hermes effect to send Carrion. And then we will use Carrion effect in Underworld to cast itself using a spirit that we used that we disenchanted off of Hermes. Then we will use Ardvarum to destroy the Carrion to ascend to the Antitan. So that's the combo. Now you will want to hold onto the Spinosect if you can. You don't really want to be pitching this first off of Antitan. But if you can guarantee that your Antitan starts beating through destroys back row and can start destroying your opponent's board, you can ditch the Spinosect. But the reason that holding onto the Spinosect is so powerful is because on any future turn, we can go Hermes effect. We will send the 2nd copy of Carrion. Carrion effect, cast itself from the Underworld, using a spirit from the Underworld. We'll then hard ascend over the Carrion into Spinosect. And then we get the Spinosect maps. So, off of basically just Ardbud, we have Antitan out on field with at least 1 guaranteed pop. We will have, 5 other cards that we've seen minimum over those couple turns. So we probably did see another bug. And if we find 2, we can keep the Spinosect in hand. And then the Spinosect is a bounce on your turn. Basically whenever, because our Hermes is already set up. So that's the combo basically. Having this much interaction off of a single card, and like yeah, we went through quite a few spheres for that, but this much payoff can be insurmountable, especially if you do this within the first 3 turns of a game. And you're constantly threatening more damage or more destruction with Antitan. And like I said, synergies with the trickery is really powerful. Being able to tag Antitan into Ardvarum is still powerful. Like you do lose this Earth Spirit, but you do get an additional search off of the Ardvarum. It's a 6/3, which is big enough, and like chances are you're going to be using this after your opponent's used any like anything that changes combat math. So like they might play a champion whale for some reason into the Antitan, and they might have like a Zeus to try to clear it. So because Antitan, Zeus Galaxy does clear Antitan, Ardvarum will dodge all of that interaction, and it will be a 6/3 on field, like staring down a 5/2. It does not lose there. So there's quite a few nifty things that you can do once that combo's done, but being able to set up that entire combo is very, very powerful. So yeah. Thanks for watching the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed it. Best way to play Hermes. Like and subscribe. Thank you.